What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Sacred Jedi Texts. Today we are in Chapter 21 of Timothy Zahn's Heir to the Empire. In Chapter 20 we were with Han and Lando as they were looking for Card's contact to try to get in touch with Card. They were able to convince the contact to take them to Myrkr to meet with Card, and we're not going to quite get into all of that just yet. This chapter is going to be told from Jade's point of view, and then it's going to switch over to Luke's after a few pages. And this is a very short but interesting chapter, so the video is not going to be too long, but let's go ahead and dive into Chapter 21. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a like on the video. So, as I said, Chapter 21 starts out in Jade's point of view. It begins with Mara heading to Talon Card's comm room. She has been summoned by him, but doesn't really know why. When she enters, she is surprised to find that he is in there alone, and he tells her to shut the door and then informs her that he just talked to Finn Torv, and remembered Finn Torv is the contact that Lando and Han are currently with, that they met in Chapter 20. So Card tells Mara that Finn is going to be touching down soon on Myrkr, but that he won't be alone. Han and Lando will be accompanying him. This immediately causes Mara to wonder if they somehow found out about Luke, but she then just brushes that off as impossible. She's like, there's no way that they could have figured out that Luke was here, so she kind of just puts that in the back of her mind. She then tries any way that she can to get Card to tell them that they can't come to the planet. She doesn't really want them here, and Card tells her that it's his duty to oblige them and pay them back since they helped Torv. Mara's like, well, just let Torv pay them back on his own if they helped him out. And Card says, since Torv is a part of us, it's part of our entire crew to pay them back, help them out for helping one of our own. Mara then asks Card if she is going to give Luke over to Han and Lando. Card says no, that he still needs to keep Luke hidden until he finds out, one, why Thrawn wants him so bad, and two, how much money he can get from handing Luke over eventually. Card then agrees with Mara that Luke does need to be moved somewhere, that Han and Lando can't accidentally stumble upon him, and he tells her to take Luke to Storage Container 4, which is the same container that R2 is being held in. Card then tells Mara to make sure to take Luke's lightsaber off her belt before Han and Lando arrive, because they obviously would see that and know what was up, and he also tells her to fly Luke's X-Wing deeper into the forest so it's hidden better. Card also says, however, that he wants Mara to join him and their guests for dinner, while also revealing that they may not only be staying the rest of the day, but the night as well. His reasoning behind being such a gracious host is that the New Republic will never think Luke was there on Myrkr if he's so open to receiving them and letting them stay. And Mara doesn't really like this plan, but she reluctantly agrees. Mara then walks over to where they are holding Luke. When she gets inside, she tells him to get his case and to come with her. And she leads Luke out to the storage container, the storage container number 4, and she locks him inside. And one interesting detail that I really want to touch on for a minute, because I think this is, well, I don't think it is, it's really important, is that Mara notices Luke is wearing the same all-black outfit that he wore the day he went to Jabba's palace to rescue Han. The same time that he was at Jabba's palace in Return of the Jedi. She then describes that day as the day that Luke destroyed her life. And that's all that's said in this chapter about that, but it is extremely interesting because, we're still trying to figure out why Mara really hates Luke and what he's done to her, and we're still trying to figure out most of her backstory at this point. So the fact that she knew what he was wearing at Jabba's palace that day, and she says that it's the day Luke destroyed her life, is extremely interesting and will be touched on a little bit more. And we even learn a little bit more in the next chapter, but I won't spoil anything for that just yet. After Mara locks Luke inside, she turns and leaves, and then the rest of the chapter switches over to Luke's point of view. As soon as Mara leaves, Luke tells himself that he has been in worse places, and, get this, he then thinks to when he was in the Rancor pit in Jabba's palace. So he doesn't know why that he thought this. He doesn't know why this specific thought entered his head. But we as the readers can see that he and Mara are somehow connected in their thoughts. She was just thinking back to the day at Jabba's palace, and then just a few moments later, Luke starts thinking about the same day. It's not a coincidence, but the characters don't know what the other are thinking right now, but we as the readers can see that, yes, they are somehow connected. Luke then tries desperately to find a way out of the room that he's locked in. As he is searching around, he discovers R2 is locked in the room next to him, so at least the two are able to find a little bit of comfort in knowing the other is right beside them. Luke tries many different ways to get the door to his room unlocked, but he is ultimately unsuccessful in every single one of them. He notices that when he touches the wires, though, to the door's lock mechanism, that it doesn't shock him, which is a little bit of a surprise. And then he kind of looks at his mechanical hand for a minute, and he has an idea. He thinks that he can use the power cells in that mechanical hand to turn the power back on in the storage container. And it's obviously important to know that Mara cut the power when she left him in there, and that's really why none of his escape methods worked, and he realizes that if he is to get out, he will have to find a way to turn the power back on, and he thinks that he can use the power from his mechanical hand to maybe boot everything back up. It's also important to note that R2 really can't help in this situation because Luke figures out that he has a restraint collar on, but Luke is still able to talk to him and tell him everything that he needs from him, like if he can use some of his information for Luke. So Luke asks him to pull up and tell him everything that he can on mechanical hands and how to get the power cells out, how to use them, and stuff like that. So with any luck, Luke's plan will work and he will be able to escape with R2. So that is the end of chapter 21 of Heir to the Empire. Like I said, it was a shorter chapter, but there was kind of a lot to cover. We did find out some interesting details, especially regarding Mara and her past, and like I said, that will be touched on in future chapters. Specifically, the next chapter, we find a little bit more out about it, but that video will be next, and we'll get to see what's to come with Han. Interesting note, in chapter 22, the one that we'll be covering next, it actually features 4 point of view characters in the one chapter. It's not an extremely long chapter, but it is filled with information, and we get to see the events through 4 different people. So that's pretty interesting, and we'll get into that more in the next video. I thank you so much for watching, for spending some time with me reading some Star Wars, and as always, may the Force be with you, and keep on reading.